Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought we would have a look at a bunch of the changelogs that have come out over the last few days, and also some temporarily available premiums. There is a few of them, including the UH-1C and then also the J-35A that Gaijin have brought back. The UH-1C is because it's its first flight anniversary of the Huey. This is the specific XM30 variant, and then also you have the J-35A, which is celebrating its 70th anniversary of its first flight. They're basically both back for a few days at a small discount, so we'll have a look at them later. But before we do that, it's time to have a look at the changelogs, since there's been some pretty heavy things happening. The BR changes being implemented, and then also a metric ton of interface changes, which is pretty wild. So let's get into it. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. Let's get started. The first update is update 2.49.0.79, and in this one they did a metric ton of interface changes, but also a few aviation ones, including for the Sufa, the good old F-16 that came in for Israel. There was a bug that prevented the GBU-15 Seeker from locking onto a target, and also didn't allow a player to switch it to an optical Seeker view. That's been fixed, so basically it just didn't work, so thank God they've actually fixed that. The Aviation B Plus and also the Aviation BNA, separate firing for the APKWS has been added, so launching APKWS while hovering in realistic battles will no longer cause them to detonate instantly. So if you hovered, you basically just exploded yourself. That's not very fun. There was also a bug that sometimes caused one or multiple detected targets to be randomly lost inside the radar's scan area when tracking a group of targets in TWS mode. That's been fixed. That obviously is quite a large issue, since the whole point of TWS, or well, I shouldn't say the whole point, but one of the big points is being able to track multiple targets at the same time. Well, it's good that they've fixed that. The AGM-179JAGMMR, this is the new missile on the Apache. The power of the fragmentation field has been increased and made comparable to that of the large caliber ATGMs. So there you go. It's going to absolutely hammer things instead of having a smaller splash radius. They have recently just upped the Apache and all of the other fire and forget helicopters. Not a surprise, since they're all in a pretty good place. But yeah, it is interesting to see. For naval vessels, the HMS Rodney, a bug where armor plates were missing from the ship's armor model on the starboard side beneath two of the main battery turrets, has been fixed, so obviously that's quite important since the Rodney has all of its guns in exactly the same place. You also have the MTB Vosper and MTB-11. The aiming sectors of the 7.7mm Lewis machine guns have been corrected, so the barrels no longer aim up and down to avoid elements of the boats that don't physically obstruct the guns but interfere with the line of fire. So they actually make more sense. They basically just fixed their targeting area. And then there was a bunch of interface changes. One of the things that is not in this group, but I saw at least in games yesterday, they seem to have removed the squadron tag from people in the games. I don't know whether this was like a bug or if this was intended, but it's kind of weird to see. I feel like I haven't seen it in War Thunder for an incredibly long time. So in the interface, in the achievements window, the appearance of the pop-up that displays the list of rewards obtainable from a trophy has been updated. A saving of target filters in the radar control window for ground vehicles also has been added. Now players don't need to have set filters again after each spawn, which is really cool. There is a spelling mistake in this, but hopefully they will fix that. There was a bug in tank arcade battles where clicking the air event button with the mouse cursor would ignore the remaining cooldown, making it possible to spawn in an aircraft or helicopter earlier than by using the hotkey, and that's been fixed. So basically it would instantly spawn you. That's kind of funny. There's also a bug that caused the aircraft visual weapon selector to not display external guns, and that's been fixed as well. And a bug where in the spawn window the selected vehicle could reset when opening the game menu has been fixed. Oh no, they haven't fixed. We'll have to see. Maybe they fixed the click on and click on off. We'll have to check that later on. That might be a big deal, especially if you're a person who likes to do many different things. We also have a bug where the missile guidance disruption hint due to the IRCM interference would disappear too quickly. So that's been fixed, and a bug where it was not possible to respawn in single-player missions when playing them in co-op. So you just basically get stuck there. There was also a bug where the player list overlapped with the aircraft parameters in custom battles in referee mode, so that's been fixed too. And a bug where the torpedo speed and depth charge did not change in the test cell window in the tooltip when changing the game mode and also depth setting. So there's so many interface bugs being fixed here. It's actually fantastic. There was also a bug where the close button in the chat window in the hangar would change its position when there was a large number of chat tabs. That's been fixed. And a bug that caused all players to have their nicknames shown twice in brackets in replays has been fixed too. So it basically doubled down. And a big one with the anti-cheat that they brought in Air Arcade, Realistic, battles, and as well ground arcade. So air arcade, air realistic, and ground arcade, the minimum battle rating for vehicle lineups that require the anti-cheat to be enabled has been reduced from 11.0 to 8.0. I don't really understand why it isn't just there for all BRs, since, you know, the whole point of an anti-cheat is to stop people cheating, but they're obviously focusing on the areas at high tier instead of at low tier. And it just seems a little bit weird, because, you know, then people can still abuse systems at low tier if they just want to. But yeah, I'm guessing at least right now it should be in a slightly better place. So then for the server update for the 23rd, basically we have battle ratings and progression, and we talked about this yesterday, so I'm not going to go over it too much, but basically for ground vehicles and helicopters, they have decompressed the top BRs. So the maximum battle rating has gone from 12.0 to 12.7 for ground, and for helicopters it's gone up to 13.0. So what this basically means is they've decompressed kind of like 11.0 to 12.0 and expanded them across more BRs. This is obviously positive. It means that you should get better matchmaking compared to what your vehicle's capabilities are. They haven't really changed anything else though in terms of like modifications or anything like that, but this is overall very good, and it should shift where the general meta BRs are, but depending on where the vehicles are. There was a few other changes as well, but they don't actually talk about them in the changelog. For example, stuff like the Leopard 2PL getting DM53, at least in the data mine I remember yesterday, that's what they were doing with it, but in the game itself, it also changed to DM53. So now it has access to the better round and should be slightly nicer. Also, pretty much all of the additional the helicopters with fire and forget stuff has gone up in BR2, which is interesting. And then also, there is a few little changes too, such as the VT4 for China. In a few weeks after the release of the next major update, it will be placed after the WZ1001E with a rank increase from rank 7 to 8. So if you want to get it now and you don't want it to get in the way of anything, this would be the time to kind of set it up. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to get in the way. The other thing is pretty much all of the helicopters that went up in BR are all of the ones which have the fire and forget missiles. So who could have seen that coming? They also added in the rearrangements to the British Ground Forces tech tree, so that has finally come in. And also, when it came to a data mine, there was a lot of information about them adding in actually more kind of rearrangements to other tech trees to bring them in line with grinding out others. So it should be fine. Hopefully, they can also reduce RP rewards at the same time, but who knows? Who knows? For locations and missions, Sinai, the height at which clouds appear has been increased. They no longer appear close to the ground, so therefore it actually is a bit more natural, and you don't just have everything clouded all the time. So the J35A is back on sale, and I've got to be honest, it's a pretty fun little vehicle, and I feel like the J35 gets a lot of shtick, basically because it just doesn't really have access to countermeasures, and I get that. I really do. But it also gets access to a bunch of things that make it pretty fun to play. First of all, it's at the 93BR, which is a volatile BR. There's a lot of supersonic jets. A lot of them have access to pretty weak missiles. And then also, they have a lot of speed. Now, the issue with 93 is the BRs that are higher than it, whether it's like the strike aircraft with the annoying missiles, or whether it's just, you know, vehicles with better missiles. But if you end up playing more around 9.3, then this type of vehicle can actually be really fun. The actual kind of shape of the J35 means that it turns really well. The issue that a lot of people have with this thing, though, is you do have to be careful when moving it around the air, because if you do a turn, you will bleed all of your speed, and it will take you a while to get it back. So you do have to actually manage your turns a little bit better. The other part of it is at 9.3, you're in kind of a rank where there isn't actually a lot of great vehicles for the Swedish. So it's actually kind of nice to get just to kind of get through this area. So you have the J32B. This one is actually not too bad, especially once you get the missiles. But the J29F feels horrific. The A32A is just literally a strike bomber. It doesn't really do anything. And then the J34, just being a hunter with missiles, once again is fine, but it's not really that entertaining. What you can do is you can get the J35A to be able to get into this rank, get yourself the AJs, which are really fun, the JA, which is also incredibly fun, and then the J35D, which is spicy, but once again lacks countermeasures. I actually feel like the J35A, being at the BR that it's at, as long as you don't engage too quickly in a dogfight, and also as long as you manage your fuel well, which can also be a bit of a problem for a vehicle like this, you can just have a blast in it, just because it plays a lot different to a lot of stuff because of the turning ability and because of many other abilities. But it's just very, very enjoyable. And I would say it's definitely worth a crack if you've never actually played a J35. I wish there was a J35 which was in a better position when you literally have a look at like all of the different ones. I think personally with this J35A, it's probably in the second best position to the J35XS, which is at 10.3 with at least the limited countermeasures. The other vehicle that's on offer is the UH-1C XM30. This was one of the kind of starter helis that they added to America, and they bring it back every so often when it comes to like a Huey anniversary. Basically, the XM30 was a prototype turret that this thing has access to. You have the 7.62s, which are here. You have the other 7.62s, but then you get these, the 30mm XM140s. These are the fun turrets, and basically what they do is they don't pen enough. So basically what you have is just guns that kind of exist and look cool. But at least when you whack attack, it does look awesome. You also get quite a lot of rounds with them, but the major thing is you don't buy this for the guns. Even though it's named after this, and that's kind of its purpose, you use the tows, and you get ITOs. So you nearly have a 4-kilometer range with them. You have good penetration with them. You just don't have great speed or, great optics on it. But at 8.7, that's really all you're going to get from a vehicle like this. They did actually update the cockpit, which is pretty cool, so you can actually see all of the insides. But I just wish on this one the optics were just better, because a lot of helicopters have much better optics at this BR, and that is kind of the limiting factor for this vehicle. At 8.7 as well, in ground forces, you actually do have quite a lot of stuff for America. You have the XM800, you have the Rise, which is nice, and then also you have all of the 8.3s, which you can bring along with it too, to kind of fill the lineup. And also, it looks like with the upcoming changes, these trees are changing. But the UH-1C XM30, I'd say, is not really worth the pickup. Like the unique thing about it, the gun, you're not really going to use that much. And the simple fact is, even though it's a vehicle that is a premium, America has a ton of these premiums now, and most of them are better than it. Whether it's the REH66, which they added, the AH-64A that's been added, or even the new one, the AH-56, which hasn't come in yet, but is slated to come in as a premium too. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.